It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you know what that means? It's time once again to revisit the Neptune Park Planet Coaster series, in which we're going to be building some things, as opposed to what we normally do. Little bit of admin to get away with at the start. I've just added these sort of wooden planks to make the edges of this path look a little bit more, I don't know, unique, different, just to signify that we're at the edge of the main square, because I guess you can't really tell where we are in the park right now, but this is the square that surrounds the tower. And you see the Planet Coaster curbs, they look a bit weird when they get all wiggly like that, so this just kind of smooths it out a little bit doing this way. And I think the end result was pretty good. Still need to do something with these greens, but I'm thinking about just leaving them empty, to be honest, because, you know, it's nice to have a little grassy picnic area near the tower, but it would be nice to be able to get things from the tower, like buy food near the tower. So that's what in case you couldn't tell from the title of the thumbnail, I don't actually know what the title of the thumbnail is going to be yet, but I'm assuming I'm going to have it something around this. That's why in this episode, we're going to be mainly focusing around building the restaurant. So it's a shorter episode. I know you guys have said that you like the longer episodes, but I've looked at the footage coming up, and I couldn't really think of a good way to split the footage into 20-minute chunks. So this week's is going to be around the 10-minute mark, but then next week's will be back on form to kind of the 15 to 20 minutes. So that's why this week's is a shorter episode, but I think it's nonetheless a fairly good one. I was quite happy with how the restaurant itself came out. I won't talk about too much of the appearance just yet, but we'll get to it. As you can see, we're just finishing off. I didn't really like the fact that there was just going to be an exposed rail track there, so added these hedges interspersed with these fence pieces. So I don't know, maintenance. There's like a hidden gate there. Maybe some maintenance crews can get to and from the track and even to the wooden coaster itself behind the scenes. Should any maintenance be required there? But I think I kind of liked the effect of having the broken up hedge and fence look. And there you go, just join it up there, so there's no possible way for people to sneak around that perimeter. You know, I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to vault, I guess, but I think I like to give people credit where credit's due. Most people would see that they're not supposed to go there. They wouldn't go out of their way to go there. But then again, you know, you always hear about deaths on roller coasters. People vaulted over the fences to go and retrieve their phones and end up getting decapitated by the ride. So, you know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. So, yeah, I kind of went for this very garish green because I thought this is going to be like an not artificial grass, but a very cleanly treated grass, because this is like an actual park area. I think in the end, a long way down the line, I changed that back to a more natural grass cover because I think it looked a little bit gaudy, that bright lime colour, but I think it looks all right for the moment. So at this moment, I'm just plotting out the general footprint of this restaurant, and of course the path tool didn't want to play ball there and join up at the edges, but it doesn't really matter too much because most of this building is aesthetic anyway rather than actually functional interior. And it's based on the actual architectural design of this thing is based on a real restaurant, an A&W outlet. Specifically, one of their branches in Malaysia has this kind of really cool sort of hut structure to it, so I thought I'd just emulate that structure, because, you know, I could design one myself, or I could just go with someone that is an actual architect and is paid to design buildings and just take reference from them. So that's kind of what the muse for this building was, but I think it came out pretty well. Obviously, we're going to be theming this around a food chain in Planet Coaster, so I think I went with Pizza Den. But all that's to come. There's like this little rim that goes all the way around the roof on all four sides. And initially I went with those wall pieces and then some flat roof pieces. But the flat roof pieces, I'm sure you saw, they look a little bit too thick and chunky. So I instead created the roof using art shapes instead, which I've been doing that a lot in this park, actually, building roofs and walls and stuff out of the art pieces rather than the actual building pieces, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, that they're more suited to buildings than the building parts. But whatever, I think you'll agree, well, I hope you'll agree that this turned out quite nicely as an initial aesthetic, although we do have a long way to go before it's fully considered finished. But as a general starting point, that's pretty good. And, oh, sorry, I just yawned, and I've just been I'm recording this on a Monday because I've got stuff on Tuesday, so I can't record this then. So it's a Monday where I am, and I'm just so tired. And I was like dozing off, and like some of the nurses at work were like, "Man, you look really tired today." I'm like, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to cut down on caffeine consumption, I guess, because I don't want to become dependent on coffee. I don't drink a lot of coffee. I'll have maybe a couple of cups a day, so it's not a lot. But I get into that. I have a big glass though. I have like a flask. kind of like a 750 ml. So I could easily have one of the, like 2 of them in one day. So I guess it is quite a lot, really. And I feel like I'm just getting to the point where like I don't want to get dependent on this. So I'm just going to go cold turkey for a bit on the caffeine front. And then not only will I become more alert, hopefully, but then when I do have caffeine in the future, I'll get buzzed on a lot less because my tolerance will drop down. So wish me luck on my caffeine detox. I'm also actually trying the whole, I remember, well, I was on Reddit at work, obviously, because that's all I do at work. And I was looking on the trending subreddits, and one of them was zero carb. And so I had a look into that, and it's like an actual diet. It's like, I think it's a bit like the Atkins diet, but it has zero carbohydrates whatsoever. So these people just eat meat and cheese and eggs, nothing else, not even like vegetables and stuff. And apparently it's got a lot of health benefits. Like Jordan Peterson, the meme psychologist, he's on this diet as well, and he advocates for it, though he does use the disclaimer that he does know nothing about dieting and he could be talking complete nonsense, so don't take his word as God at all. So I thought I'm not gonna do zero carb whatever, but I've been trying out like steaks and more meat based meals a lot more, because like I've never really been that great cooking steak. I feel like it's a good skill to have, so I've been cooking a lot of steaks recently. And I am trying to cut down on calories and stuff, because there are a couple of shirts that are very, very snug on me right now, so I'm trying to get back into those. And I've been looking at, like, if you have steak and chips, the chips have more calories than the steak, and the steak is the best part of the meal, so why not just have 2 steaks? So that's the attitude I've been going right now. It's just like, well, just have more meat and less of everything else. So tonight I think I'm having pork and eggs, which is a zero carb meal, but I've been doing that, very, very consistently. But again, it's like cutting out refined sugar as well. Like there's an off license behind my house. I like going in there, just picking up a can of Diet Coke or something, and I'll pick up a Kit Kat as well. Just cutting out the Kit Kat because it's 250 calories in a Kit Kat. That's like a lot. And trying to drink less as well. It's not really drink. I don't drink a lot, but it's not really the drinking that adds the calories. Like I'll drink whiskey, it's not a very carby drink. Obviously, it comes from potatoes, so all alcohol has a lot of calories in it. But compared to lager, whiskey has very, very low calories. But when you get drunk or just drinking for the next 11 hours, any food that your body intakes, it just gets stored straight into fat. It doesn't get metabolized because the body's still trying to deal with the alcohol. Full disclaimer, I don't actually know what I'm talking about here. I am not a dietitian or a diet expert in any sense, in any capacity or anything. So this is just my armchair research on Google. So please don't take any of this. Do your own research if you're going to do something like this. This is just something that I've been doing recently, just trying to cut back on the old calories, because I used to be pretty fat at school, and then at university I lost a lot of weight, and then I've gradually been putting the weight back on over like the 3 years since graduating. So time to get back to how I was, I think. So that's the objective for me at the moment. So it's a lifestyle choice. And like trying to cut out drinking is like cutting out beer is hard. Like when I go to the pub, having to get like Diet Coke rather than beer. It's not great. So that's all just a temporary measure, I think. But I'll go back to drinking beer eventually. But that's just something I've been doing in my life, really. There's not much for me to talk about with the actual video, because I guess you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just placing more fences after we finished that restaurant. I think what I did, I wasn't really watching the screen, to be honest. But I think what I did was I added some like picnic benches and umbrellas, but I didn't hit record when I placed those. So in the final shots, you may see some umbrellas, like parasols and seating areas outside the restaurant that you didn't see me place. That's just because I placed them after the fact. Then they have this awkward hill. I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I decided not to place another ride on that hill in the end, just for the sake of my frame rate. I didn't really want to have too many roller coasters in this park, because I wanted to maintain some sort of realism. And given the fact that we have a lot of landmass that we're yet to build on, I thought I'd place the next roller coasters that we build in more interesting spots than this kind of weird limbo zone in between Rage and Venom with the train track in the middle. It was kind of a weird spot, so I just turned that little hill into sort of a nature reserve, or just a bit of wooded area. Didn't actually build anything in there. But there's a nice little overview of the park. So I've got this little pavilions there. I don't actually like the way they turned out in retrospect, so I ended up deleting those a little bit later on, but I think they look nice for the most part. And you can see me adding this little wooded area here. So who knows, I might add like a go-kart track through these woods, or like a car ride, or do something with it. But for the moment, I actually really like the tree, the little backdrop these trees place against the children's play area, and of course the actual green by the tower itself. So there we go. There's a little park we built last week as well. The other thing we want to build in this episode, because I thought, we don't want to cut it off just yet. So we'll build one more building as well. We're going to build a toilet block. It's absolutely nothing fancy. I'm not doing any kind of cool architecture or like, like life hacks with the game's pieces. It's all just fairly standard generic buildings. This is like a building built to the way that the devs intended you to build buildings in Planet Coaster, so quite blocky. So I think I actually quite like the way it turned out, kind of this sort of vintage look, really, to be honest. So I think it turned out pretty nicely. So yeah, like I say, nothing fancy whatsoever, just a nice cream and blue aesthetic, and then we'll add a nice generic roof to the top. The only problem with this roof is that the actual angled roof, there's corner roofs that form the central roof bit, for want of a better word. They have like roof skirting and fascias, but the rest of the roof doesn't, even though it comes from the same set. So it always looks a little bit asymmetrical, especially from the back, which kind of was a bit of an annoyance, but it wasn't too bad overall. And I added gendered toilet signs here, although the toilets aren't gendered in Planet Coaster. I did that again for aesthetics, because I don't really have much intention of opening this park while I build it, so I can live out the fantasy of having, segregated toilets, because that's just how. Not that I'm against gender-neutral toilets, but I guess most of the time whenever I go to a theme park or something, the toilets are always gendered. So that's just why. I'm not trying to make some sort of statement before you start twisting my words. And then obviously we had this weird gap here, so I just filled it in with rocks and added some generic scenery. It was a pretty quick and dirty approach, to be honest. It doesn't look too amazing, but I think for what it needed to do, it does it well. So I just filled it in with rocks, then added some sort of scenery pieces just to make it look a little bit more interesting, not just like a pile of rocks had been dumped there. So I added these pirate parasols and a treasure chest. So this is the pirate themed area of the park, this little slit outside the toilet block. But there's a little overview of what we have built so far. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week we're going to be building some rides again, but that's going to be next week. So this week's is all wrapped up. There are some links on screen, as I'm sure you can see. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I would greatly appreciate it, as well as join my Discord. And if you want to leave a like on this video, again, that always goes appreciated as well. And also there's my Patreon and the rest of this playlist. That's it. Goodbye.